you afraid of God?
No. But I'm afraid of you.
Welcome everyone to the Bioshock Infinite spoiler cast with the Media House. I am Dewey. With me is Tom. He's way over there, and Raymond in the middle.
Hi.
How you guys doing? Are we doing good?
I'm doing so good. I've been waiting to talk about this game for like the past week now.
Oh,
However
when we
long
decided
it's
to
been
do this
since I've
as a
beaten it.
live stream, Raymond was so visibly unhappy because it meant he had to wait.
Yeah, it's like me and Raymond finished the game by ourselves like a week ago, and maybe a little bit less than a week ago. And like every time me and Raymond have hung out since then, we have to be like, we can't talk about this. We want to, but we can't.
Right.
So
Because we wanted that energy of the first conversation to be here in this
Right.
live stream.
Right. Oh. So now we get to talk about it, and I'm happy and I'm excited,
We do.
and oh,
I have a cat on my lap. She's very cute, but sometimes she tries to rape the microphone, so I apologize for that in advance.
I have a songbird on my lap because songbirds better than cats.
I don't have anything on my lap.
Questionable. All right, so our first topic of conversation is going to be kind of the moments of peace that you find throughout the course of Bioshock Infinite. And I think Dewey was the big proponent of this topic. So what are some of your favorites?
Particularly, there's the moment that I actually put up of the Bioshock, the little song, the credit song, but the short version of it within the game, and that's something that really stuck out to me as something that was really cool. And I don't know if you guys found any other moments throughout that.
When the Vox were revolting, when you change over to that time period, there's a woman who was in a stockade being humiliated, and when you went through the first time, then you come back and you've opened the tear and the Vox are rebelling, and instead she's sitting there and she's singing "Fortunate Son," just to herself. She's just singing it in like kind of an old, I don't know, an old-timey sort of fashion, I guess, and it's really enjoyable. I stopped and just watched that when I was playing through on my personal playthrough.
I mean, it's particularly prevalent in this game, and it's not like it hasn't happened in games before, but when you're rushing around fighting things, like the song that I was talking about that was really during the period which you're just doing combat after combat after combat, and it was nice to. This is like something that's completely optional. You didn't have to come down here or down to that little area, but it was just nice to take that break and just kind of sit down and I guess think about how amazing this game was, and that it can include moments like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that these might just be personal. It's not necessarily like designed into the game that you would stop in these places and take a breather necessarily. But if you decide to, the game rewards you.
Well, I've got one that's non-optional, and it's my moment of peace, and that is just the beginning. When you get up to Columbia and you get outside of the rocket that you're in, and you're in this beautiful place. The music is just I've listened to that song on the soundtrack so many times since I've beaten this game, because I beat the game before I downloaded my soundtrack voucher, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, I'm just going back to that moment in my head with all these candles being lit, and everything is just so serene. As far as peaceful moments go, that's it for me. Like just being like jaw on the floor and yet peaceful at the same time. It's like two completely different things happening at once in your head.
Completely full of wonder, and then also just completely just blown away. This game is incredibly good at just making a scene that your eyes want to linger on.
Right.
And another thing that goes into creating these moments is the music in this game. So, I mean, I think Dewey and I both mentioned things that had to do primarily with music. Another time that I stopped and just listened and smiled was I found Shiny Happy People by REM on one of the, what are they? They're little trolleys, I guess, that go along the skylines. That's just playing in one of those. And I just stopped and I listened to the whole thing. And again, it's like done in like a really old school type fashion.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like the music in this game. Let's just talk a little bit about that.
There's a lot of that. I definitely heard everybody wants to rule the world more than a couple of times. Yeah, like so just hearing that and like, but they also explain that
Mhm.
if you go into Fink's house that's near the cemetery and you listen to that audio log, you'll hear Fink talking to his brother who has written these songs because he's gotten them from tears of the future, and he's like, ooh, the songs are really popular then, I know, I'll take them and make them now myself before they're made, and then and that's how we get songs from our time back then in Colombia. This guy
Exactly.
stealing the songs.
And this is where we're going to get super spoilery. So, I mean, if you haven't finished the game, this is your last warning.
This video is titled Spoiler Cast. If
It
they're
is,
here
but I
as-
just want to make sure this is about to ruin the game for you, and you should leave immediately if you haven't beaten or watched the ending.
Severe account drops to 5.
All right. So this music that they pull through time and have here, it might seem like if it was in a different game, it would just be ripping off music and being super lazy about where you're getting your music from. In this game, it's because we share a universe with Bioshock Infinite, or a multiverse. And they're actually just reaching through time, pulling this music backwards in time to Columbia. And the same thing happens with technology. That's why there's this. I mean, it turns out the Lutesses are actual straight up geniuses and do come up with how to levitate a city on their own without any time travel nonsense.
It's all physics.
But beyond that, like, the vigors that you use are actually plasmids from Rapture.
They are.
That's the same technology. They just stole it from a different timeline.
It's beautiful.
And that's also why there's these things like there's like motorized horses, there's handymen. The songbird technology was borrowed from Rapture. That's the Big Daddy technology that watches over those little sisters. It's just been re-engineered into this flying, awesome monstrosity.
I don't know for a fact, but I was reading the comments, and somebody pointed out that the Boys of Silence, the dude who you fight in the atrium, well, you don't fight him per se, but he works exactly like a turret camera in Bioshock, in Rapture. He's scanning around with his white light. When he sees you, his light turns yellow. You have a quick moment to get out of his vision, and then if you don't, he turns red and just sends shit tons of stuff to come and kill you.
Yeah.
So it's like that is they don't have the technology for that kind of equipment in Colombia. So what if that's their way of doing that?
Yes.
It's beautifully done.
Yeah, so any other examples of anachronisms, things that are brought from a different time period into Columbia's? It's basically, like, it's so prevalent in the entire game that it's almost hard to come up with examples. Like, they should have super nice machine guns in the same time period as Wounded Knee. Like,
that's true.
We didn't have post-World War II weaponry in 1812.
See, now you're thinking.
Yeah. So, all sorts of things like that. And it's another one of those examples where it's like, you start out just giving it a pass because it's a video game. You get sweet weapons or whatever. You get magic powers. Why wouldn't you get magic powers? It's a video game and magic powers are awesome. No, fuck you. Never say it's just a video game when Irrational Games is making it.
Right.
Ever.
Because most of the time there's a reason, there's an explanation for it.
Yep.
And then I also just like how they blend everything. Like, just they take all the stuff that they get from the future, and then they blend it with the technology that they would have available, and how well that comes off in a game. Because some games try to do that and may not always be the most successful at it. But this one, I think, Bioshock Infinite did an outstanding job about it. So
yeah, it's amazing how coherent and unified the art style feels, given that they're pulling everything in from everywhere. Really impressive. I'm blown away by that aspect of it, and almost every other aspect of the game as well. All right, so getting a little bit more into the plotline type stuff. What about those Lutece people? The Lutece lady and gentlemen.
I've been giving that some thought lately, and I think that they might be some of my favorite characters in gaming. You know, like, just because of the way they're presented, it's just kind of like, they're there from the beginning, you don't know why, and it's slowly unveiled to you, like, that these really are, these two, who are actually this one, really is the mastermind of everything that's happened during this, and it's just, there's no other character that's been presented to me, at least, in gaming like that.
Right. And they seem so disarming, I guess. They seem so innocent.
Right.
You trust them. They just don't seem like evil people.
Right.
And
well,
yet,
because, like, right when, they come out of the gate, you have them in the boat. And at that point, you're kind of like, I don't really know who these people are. And then I believe the next time they show up is when you enter into the, like, restricted area, right? And they have the heads or tails, flip or whatever.
Yes.
And
that's kind of where it all begins, right there. I mean, there is the "he doesn't row" line at the beginning, which still some people don't understand. I love that I understand what that means.
well, share it,
Yes,
don't
please
hold it to
explain.
yourself.
Dude, because Dewey, are you still confused by that?
No, you...
No, but our audience...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. This is why I didn't want to talk about it before, because I didn't know. So, when he says he doesn't row, it's not that he's physically incapable of rowing, it's just that he doesn't row. He never rows in any timeline. He never, even if he were to ask Booker to row, Booker would just say no. He doesn't row. And so that's just one example of the things that they keep on doing with the coin flip. That chalkboard that they had, that's not just people that they did that to. That's only Bookers that have walked past them and picked heads or tails, and what side of the coin has landed on. It always lands on tails or heads. I forget exactly.
It's
I think
heads. Yeah, because I
And
picked
people have
heads.
counted those. I think that there's 122 once they add your tally to it. So you are the 122nd Booker that they have sent that has failed and presumably died.
Yes. That's another great thing about the way that they can handle deaths if they want to in the storyline, is just if you die in a combat sequence or whatever, you wake up as a different Booker that died at that point, who's gotten farther than that.
Yes. Yeah, they I mean, it's not incoherent the way that they show deaths. They show you open the, like, you wake up back at home, at real home in New York as a private detective, you open the door, and then it does a little, like, it fast forwards a bit. In reality, you should see all of the game up until there, but in order to avoid making you play through that, you just wake up at the last checkpoint instead.
Which is
Booker was sleeping.
so well
That's a
done.
dream.
It's a little crazy.
The other thing about the Luteces is that they sort of become magical. Like,
Well,
so they had technology that could create these tears in space and time, and they used it just as, like, these portals that you see at the end. You pull, they pull Anna through,
Right.
before she becomes Elizabeth. Again, you're ruined for the game. Don't bother playing it now. And then the machine breaks. The machine is destroyed by Fink, who is paid by Comstock to do it, and he's paid in the patents of the Luteces. And once their machine breaks, somehow or the other, they become scattered throughout all of these different worlds. They call it the probability space, meaning the different choices that people make that create different timelines. So that's how they're able to sort of appear everywhere at will without any explicit tears being ripped in the fabric of space. They themselves just sort of belong to all times now.
Right. It's just, again, that one point, like, it goes back to way early in the game when you're on the boardwalk and you're trying to get to the First Lady, the Zeppelin that's going to supposedly take you to Paris. And there's a voxophone. And I keep wanting to call it an audio log because of Rapture. There's a voxophone in there where Lutece is talking about her dreams and how in a dream she met a girl who was herself but also wasn't herself, and she met a boy who was herself and who also wasn't herself, and how that, spurred her interest in metaphysics, and just eventually she figured out that these places were real, and she wanted to bring her brother, her brother who was herself, from Booker's timeline, from Booker's world, because Booker's Lutece is a dude, and the Lutece that we are, brought through the whole game listening to is the female Rosalind. Yeah, Rosalind. I believe the males is Rosalind and Robert. So it's just to figure out that these two people that you're seeing the entire game are the same person. It was just like, Jesus Christ, I don't even know. Don't even this game. At that point the game's gonna throw you for a loop somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Because it's just like if they're bringing that to me this early on in the game, like.
That was my thing. I say that a couple different times in the walkthrough, that like this game is bringing some serious heavy machinery in for like creating plot devices. And once you start doing shit like having someone team up with themselves from another timeline, you need to pull something huge off in the ending to make good on that premise. And oh my god, did they ever do that.
Yes, it did.
But that is not the next topic for discussion. The ending we are going to get to, but appropriately, we're going to get to the ending after a while of talking about the rest of the game. Our next one is the time travel metaphysics, meaning what happens to the universe once you start traveling through time.
Go ahead.
All right.
There's a couple things that happen, right? And I don't know exactly what goes on. They signify a lot of this through not only the tears that you can open up, but appropriately so through the lighthouses at the very end of the game.
Yes. So in this game, the way time travel works, you can't. By the way, there's some people in discussions that'll say, "Oh no, this is just how time travel works." No. In the real world, there is no time travel. I hate to break it to you. But in this game, the way that time travel works is every time someone makes a decision, a new future is created. A new universe is created, a new dimension, whatever you want to call it. I like the term narrative. I stole that from the book Anathema. A new narrative is created, which contains all of the repercussions of that decision and every other decision made after that. So it branches off like a tree.
Right.
And that's how time travel works. So if you can think of the Luteces as now, instead of existing in one unified stream through this tree, one unified branch, they sort of now exist across a band of these branches. They can show up wherever they want, basically. Similarly, Elizabeth at the end kind of transcends being tied to a single time period.
She does. After
becomes able to not just move herself through these different time periods, but bring other people with her. And one of the first examples of that, before she ascends to godhood. Does anyone have anything else about sort of like the fabric of the universe in this game?
Fabric of the universe. We could I could talk about how she gets to have these powers in the first place.
Yeah, actually, this is a great place to talk about that.
Because there's another voxophone that hints at how she has these powers. Lutece talking about a part of herself was left in another world, and the universe doesn't like that, and that's why she doesn't have a pinky, because her pinky gets cut off. So part of her exists in Booker's world, and most of her exists in Columbia and in that world, in that timeline. And so because she exists in two different places at once all the time, she has these powers. It's like the universe trying to fix itself in some way.
Trying to get the parts back together, being like,
Right,
here.
creating that opportunity. Yeah. So it's just, I like that nothing's left up for question as to how or why. It's
Yeah, I mean, you can argue whether that's a satisfying explanation for someone becoming a god or not. But there is at least a universe explanation.
They also talked about, like, she had these powers ever since that point, but when she hit puberty, I mean, they in the tower there was what's that word, Tom? I made you look it up.
There was her monarchy. I even got the pronunciation.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Her first menstrual bleeding.
Right, they had that in there, and once she hit puberty, her powers grew exponentially, and then that's why people weren't allowed in the tower anymore, because they had to keep the machine on all the time to drain her. Otherwise, she'd be able to do all the shit you see at the end of the game, you know?
Just on the, wing, just whenever she wants to, it's like, oh, I do want to go to Paris, so here we go.
Don't mess with women when they're mad. They will send tornadoes after you.
So awesome. Just the fury of God that she summons with that tornado. Awesome. And so let's talk about kind of, I mean, it's not the first time Elizabeth opens a tear or anything, but it feels like the first time Elizabeth actually has a plan for how to bring about the ending that we see. And that's when you are pulled off of a bridge into the future, slowly, towards old Elizabeth's time period.
You don't know it.
Where, yeah, it's very cryptic how they show it. It's just like the screen kind of flashes white and then it's snowing.
Right.
And before that, the songbird was screaming, and then suddenly he's gone. Like, he's not screaming anymore.
Right.
And
you hear Elizabeth screaming like she's being tortured.
yes,
But the further you go, the farther you realize, oh, that's just a tear. And the Lutesses show you that, and that's where I think my favorite line comes from in the game, is when he says, Booker says, "What? Like it's a tear?" And they say, "Why do you ask what when the delicious question is why?"
When.
When? I'm sorry. They say, well, the delicious question is when. They said, shoot, I forget. It's just it's my favorite quote in the damn game.
yeah, and they go off on
Die, will die. You know,
Yes.
like that's like your first hint. Like, oh shit, like everything has already happened and will continue to happen. That's your first moment when it's just like, shit, this is all infinite.
Yes.
You catch my meaning?
Because and the reason why the Lutesses now have that perspective is because they have that's because they've come untethered in one narrative. They now exist across many narratives. So they see all of the universes where people died, where people didn't die. Even if they see someone die, they can go back to earlier in that same narrative's life and see them live. So for them, all of this it's not a river of time, it's an ocean of time, and they have found a way to navigate it. So cool. But so old Elizabeth. So what is old Elizabeth's deal? Why is she pulling you through time in the first place? What's her goal? Does anyone else want to cover this? I have an answer I like.
Okay, so the entire reason that the old Elizabeth in 1984 brings you there is because in her world, every time you have tried to get to her and stop, all these bad things from happening,
Right,
Songbird stops you.
Hold on, I'm going to back up a little bit just to clarify here, because there's time travel and stuff and it's confusing.
There is.
She's seen multiple different versions of you trying to cross that bridge.
Right.
Back before she pulls you out of time at all. And every time she watches you try to get across that bridge, it turns out that there's a giant mechanical bird of some type that kills you as you're trying to helplessly walk across this bridge because it's massive and overpowering and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. So her plan there is to then bring Booker from our time period, the time period that we play through, directly to her. Screw all of the messing around. Just bring him to me, or as close to she as she can, because obviously, you got to go through that entire segment of that hospital or whatever it is that we're in. There's all of that to go through, but we get there, and the whole point is that she will give us this piece of paper that has these, this code on it that we're not going to be able to read, but Elizabeth, back in our world, can read. She will know exactly what's on that paper, and that paper will tell her exactly how to stop fireballs from raining on New York, 70 years later.
Which was his dream, also.
That was the dream. That is what Comstock saw. That's what Lutece showed Comstock would happen. That's how Comstock was this prophet, because every time he would prophesize something, Lutece showing him what was going to happen. And even Booker killing Comstock was shown to him. He knew that was going to happen. That's why he keeps on goading Booker with things like self-sabotage.
That's why that's exactly why he's manhandling Elizabeth.
Right.
Is because he has seen his end. He knows exactly how it happens, and he knows how to make it come about. Before you come in there's actually 6, I think, different golden panels, square golden panels, that have different important events from the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it's something that we specifically linger on in the walkthrough. It's something that I noticed in my personal playthrough, though. And
go back and replay the game.
Got to go play the whole game again.
Thanks, Tom.
So yeah, there's the Vox Populi revolt. There's pretty much every important thing that happens throughout the course of the game. The last one, Comstock standing over his fountain right there. It's just him standing. He knows 100% what's going to happen to him. That's the last important event in his timeline.
This is the image that Tom was talking about. I
want to see
believe.
this image.
No, this is totally different.
No, that's Fink.
Is,
that's at the Fink factory.
Oh, gotcha.
Fink's hiring, which is pretty funny still, though. This is the list of jobs that people are auctioning for, and then later on, once you've passed the audition for becoming the head of security, it turns into just kill the false shepherd. That's the only job now in Finkton. You can take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I'm going to kill him, but when he's older.
Fair enough.
So, we have this list, but I want to talk. Do you guys realize that Booker and Comstock are both the same age?
I don't believe that they are.
The cancer that Comstock has gotten from the machine has aged him significantly. If you listen to the Voxophones, Lutece talks about that more than once, I believe. So it's really, really messed him up being exposed to all these tears and these machines that Lutece has built. And so when you think about it, when you get up to that baptism scene, and in the world where he accepts becoming Comstock, he doesn't magically just get older there. He doesn't age at that point. He's still the same age. Maybe 20 years older, because that's how long it takes Booker to get to Columbia.
Yeah, that's how long Booker sits around depressed after selling Anna to an interdimensional slave trader, for all he knows.
Right. So, I just wanted to,
so the audio,
you guys knew that.
Yeah, the Voxophones are not necessarily that cut and dry. I don't think that they come right out and say that he's aged. They talk about it diminishing your traits.
They say aged, Tom.
Do they?
Yep.
All right, I totally missed that. Now I've got to go back and replay the whole game.
That's the replay aspect for me definitely is I want to go back and play and listen to those voxophones, because I know that while I was playing it through the first time, as much as I wanted to list all these voxophones, I wanted to figure out what was happening next in the story, and so that caused me probably to rush through a little bit faster.
Did you rush through it? No.
I didn't rush through it
because I was doing the walkthrough with Raymond, and then I was always behind playing through on my personal save because I was doing other things, StarCraft, having a girlfriend, eating dinner, sleeping, shit like that. That's way less important than Bioshock Infinite. So I spent most of the game rushing through trying to catch up with the walkthrough. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to my second playthrough, really just taking my time and enjoying it.
Real quick, as a side, are you going to play it on the 19... What is
99?
I'm going to try. Yeah, 1999 mode. You can unlock that right off the bat with a variation of the Konami code. I don't know exactly what it is.
What is that, though?
Oh, the Konami code is...
No. What's the 1999 mode?
Oh, it's the hardest difficulty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Games were hard in 1999.
It's a throwback to System Shock 2, I think. In which, because that was Ken Levine's game, right?
That was like the first one that got super popular.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
And how it was like very limited resources and that kind of stuff, and that's what the emphasis is on that playthrough. Is that the resources are a lot limited. You have to really think about what you're doing, and deaths really, really punish you.
I might try that when I get the game for PC. I think I do want to play this on PC, because apparently PC just looks so much better than the Xbox version. Like,
I don't know if anyone noticed, but the video that was put up of the song, the short version of the song, that was recorded on my PC, and I run the game at ultra settings. So
I'll have to watch it then.
It is cropped a little bit because it was just more atmospheric when you didn't have like the health bars and all that kind of stuff on there, but it still looks I think it still looks absolutely amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't record at ultra. I can play at ultra, and I only drop frames occasionally, but once I start trying to record, I've got to be on very high settings on my computer.
Anyways.
Alright, the next topic is, oh my word, we're finally there. The ending, and specifically how the ending reframes the game, is one thing that I want to get to, but really anything about the ending at all.
I'm apologize as far as media. I had something for this, but it didn't end up going there. But anyways,
don't worry about it.
The ending, like, for those people who maybe are not as intelligent as Raymond or Tom, i.e. me, it almost is, because I'm guessing that you guys saw the ending coming and at least guess some of the things that, okay, maybe not.
You can see my reaction to the ending live. And not only did I not see it coming, but I say stuff that's straight up incorrect. I'm like, Comstock didn't have Columbia before he had Elizabeth, even because he didn't have these tears to steal technology through. And it's like, no, the Lutesses are actually hardcore badass science geniuses. At least the girl one is. The guy one's kind of dull compared.
You did call that once we were inside the room with the crib. You did immediately call that was Elizabeth. But I mean, at that point, it is somewhat obvious.
I had actually put that together a long time ago. This sounds like I'm just bragging and like I didn't actually happen, but like I had thought that and been like pretty convinced and just decided not to say it in the walkthrough. There was something that like screamed it to me loud and clear, and I don't remember exactly what it was. But
like, I understand that, because when I was playing it through, there was part of my brain saying like, Anna is Elizabeth. That is a thing. But I'm just like, I'm not gonna believe myself. And so, like, up till pretty much the part where her finger gets all like, fallen off, which, like, my face when all that's going on is like,
yeah, dude. Yeah, you're gonna tell me that shit. That's exactly the same here. Well, I think there's definitely some large hints to it.
Oh wait, can I back up 1 second here? All right, on Twitter, follower Bloodman92 says, "How do you feel the choices and the necklace item you choose affect and influence the ending?"
They don't.
Oh, they don't at all. There's one ending to this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is sort of
it's a false choice.
Which is what Elizabeth tells you straight up when you're walking through through lighthouses. Is she says, "You always this is how it happens."
I think I actually have
already done it.
Right.
there because she has like what her 3 words are. I can't remember what it is. Like, it is, it was, it will be, or something like that.
Yes.
Done.
There are small things that your choices do affect. For instance, if you choose to throw at the start baseball at the couple, instead of getting gear from the couple and them saying thank you so much for helping us, just on the other side of that door, a representative from Fink shows up and says something like, "You're our top candidate right now. Here, take this gear."
Ha!
Yeah. So there are little changes, like Elizabeth's necklace
Spoilers, Tom.
changes, just depending on which one you choose.
Spoilers,
She wears
Raymond.
that around, I guess. That's not really like a weird cryptic thing. It's just your choice does have an effect.
I'm curious, what did you guys? I won't go too far away from it, but what did you guys have Songbird destroy or not destroy? I can't remember what the option is, but I just had him destroy the tower.
Yeah, it's the only option.
No, there's 2 options. You could destroy the tower. There was something else, but I can't remember what it was. I swear to God.
No, I don't think so.
Because you could like blow the whistle or not blow the... Maybe I'm just not remembering it right. I just chose to destroy the tower because I'm like, fuck this, I need to save Elizabeth any way possible, and that was, to my brain, the most clear way to do that. But like, to me, at that point in time, like when you've gone through the part where you're having Songbird destroy the dirigibles and the gunships and that kind of stuff, at the end of it, when you meet her on the bow, I swear that there's a moment in which, at least it seems like it was either save Elizabeth or save Songbird. At least that's what my brain told me when I was going through that. So,
no, that's not the choice at all.
I don't actually believe that there's a choice. I think you always have to blow up the statue.
Yeah, you blow up the statue every time. And then you get transported to Rapture.
Well, I think it's like throughout the game, they would always tell you to destroy the statue or something like that. And my brain was always just, because this is just how I play games, is just I'm always trying to find a different way. Like, even if there's not an option, I'll just wander around for like 10 minutes being like, there's got to be another way, god damn it. So maybe that's probably where my brain went there.
Yes.
Fair.
So let's talk about like what the ending actually does to the story. What happens there? And I'm just gonna walk through it basically because I think that while this is a little bit confusing, it's not actually an open question. So Elizabeth takes you back to the baptism, and at that baptism, that's actually the key point where Booker DeWitt either becomes Booker DeWitt, private detective, or he abandons the name Booker DeWitt and becomes Zachary Comstock. He becomes a religious man, goes off and lives a different life where he meets up with the Lutesses. Because he's absolved of his sins, he now sees that as a different person and hates old Booker DeWitt, the Booker DeWitt that killed people at Wounded Knee. He sees that as a completely different person and 100% hates the idea of sin and goes on to construct Columbia. So this is actually super scathing towards the idea of Christianity. I'm not saying that that's how I see Christianity, but it appears that this game does not believe in the power of forgiveness to help people become better people.
You know what I loved? This is going off of your comment of the Battle of Wounded Knee. The whole time you're going through that segment, and there's some really foul shit in that segment. Yeah. But you're listening to Slate go crazy because Comstock never fought at any of these battles. He was never this hero that he's claiming to be, but he was. Like,
but it was.
Booker.
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? Like, oh my god! It was just when I realized that, I was just so in love with the game because they did such an excellent job of making you not see any of this shit coming.
Yeah. And I mean, it occurred to me, I even say it in the walkthrough, it's so weird how Slate's in Columbia, even though Booker DeWitt never heard of Columbia, and he's his war buddy, someone that he knows personally, ends up on this flying city, a very small population, and then on top of that, Comstock is claiming to be from the 2 battles that Booker DeWitt saw in his life, And there's not any tribute to any other battle in the history of the world. And you're just still so wide-eyed, loving the environment, hating the racism, distracted, shooting people. It's just 100%. I looking back, it's like, how didn't I see this happening? It was right there. But it's so hard.
Cool, yeah, like you said, there's always a distraction. There's always something else happening, not giving you enough time to think about it.
Yes.
You know? You're always pushing forward.
Well, like with the end and all of it accumulating, I was like, my mind was ready to start like just bawling. Like
Your body was ready.
It was ready. And just things just kept on happening, and then the very end of, you know, or not the, well, actually can't, is the last, what is the last scene, like the last thing you see?
The last scene is when you're back at the baptism.
Okay, and then you get,
and
Elizabeth kills you.
And Elizabeth and all of the Elizabeths from other worlds drown you, thus ending Comstock, because that they took you back to before the decision to become Comstock was made. Stopped that decision from being made by drowning you. Columbia never happens.
Yeah, like
right.
And because that never happens, Elizabeth is never born, and that's why all the other Elizabeths start popping out of existence. She doesn't exist anymore.
Elizabeth is never taken.
Yeah.
After the credits, we see though that what we actually drowned, right? What was drowned is Comstock. It's only the form of Booker DeWitt that was going to accept the baptism. Because after the credits, we see back in Booker DeWitt's office, he's there, and you can tell that he's retained memories of this whole experience because he's shocked and so happy that Anna, he can hear crying in the other room. So we actually get a happy ending.
I never thought about that. Damn it, Tom. We do get a happy ending.
Yes,
that makes me so happy.
Yes, we do. You only drown Comstock. You pull him up at the roots, as Daisy Fitzroy would say.
That's nice. I love it. Oh my god. Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
No problem.
Raymond's day was just made.
That's just so it's not happy though, Tom, because he still doesn't have his wife. Lady Comstock still died.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, Booker's got bad luck with women, man. I mean, the one he murdered straight up in order to keep the secret of where Elizabeth came from. But his other wife just died during childbirth. Unlucky.
You know, Lady Comstock was his wife in this other world?
I don't know that we know one way or the other.
I don't think we know one way or the other, except for the fact that Lady Comstock's first name is Annabelle.
Is it?
Yep.
I did not know that.
That's suggestive, at least.
It's very suggestive. Yeah. I do love that, like...
Did Comstock marry his own daughter? No, just kidding.
No. When you first get to the Battleship Bay, after the giant breakout scene with the Songbird and Elizabeth, you wake up and you're sputtering and your eyes are fuzzy and you start calling out Anna's name, and it's Elizabeth that's there. Like, he thought he was seeing his daughter. You think he's talking about his wife.
Yes.
But he's talking about his daughter, who is right in front of him. He doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like one of those, another surreal moment when you go back and you play that game and you play that part, and it's just like, holy shit.
One of the first voxophones in the game, again, talking about foreshadowing for the ending, says, "Love the prophet, for he is a sinner. Love the sinner, for he is you." What? What? You told us straight up that Comstock is us? Only you hid it in religious language? What a bunch of giant game developer ballers they are over at Rational Games.
I love this studio. This is why Rational is my second favorite gaming studio. Could be my stepfather. I'd be okay with it.
Just so good. One thing that I do want to talk about that I think is a little bit cloudy is, what is Zachary Comstock's motivation? Is he actually trying to drown the world of man in flames? Why did Booker DeWitt become that evil simply from accepting a baptism?
That's what religion does to you.
I don't know. I guess I hadn't really thought about that, other than he just becomes a super religious, and he wants to rid the world below of sin, and to do that, you need to rid the world of bad people. I guess would be his mentality.
Maybe
the other part would just be like, maybe he saw it when Lutece, Lutece showed him this is what was going to happen, and so he kind of felt like that was his destiny. It's what he had to do.
Maybe he was so angry at mankind at what they could do.
I have a different theory.
Okay.
So we see with old Elizabeth that people can, if they can see through these tears, make extremely calculated decisions. Elizabeth knows the exact moment that she has to pull Booker out of his timeline and into hers. Old Elizabeth. She knows exactly when the Songbird will kill him. She knows that the Songbird kills him every time. And she develops a plan where she just hands him a card and changes the entire fate of the universe. And in exactly the way that she wants.
Mm-hmm.
From the moment she hands him that card, it's pretty much set in stone. He will go on to drown Zachary Comstock in his baptism.
Right.
My question is, if Zachary Comstock can also see through these tears, was he just as much one of the people making this plan as old Elizabeth was? Was his plan the whole time?
No. He can't see through these tears. The only time he's seen these tears, these prophecies, is when someone chose to show them to him. He never once made the tears himself. That was never talked about in the game.
Sure.
There's only one Lutece, the Archangel.
He can't open them at will like Elizabeth can, but he still has this ability to see into other dimensions because of the Luteces. The Luteces are largely in his employ for a great swath of the history in this game.
Mm-hmm.
They build Columbia for him. They're obviously fairly loyal for a good chunk of it. They even go so far as to abduct Annabelle from a different universe. So, to me, it's like, I mean, he doesn't have the ability himself to open these tears, but he absolutely is able to ascertain prophecy through them. And so it's not out of the question to think that maybe he's not a villain. Maybe what he's doing is trying to stop Booker DeWitt from being the world's worst father to the daughter he can't have because he's sterile. Because that's exactly what he manages to do. Through bringing Booker DeWitt, through this with the Luteces, he successfully gives his daughter a father that she couldn't have had unless this happened.
Because of the what?
Huh?
I'm trying to put together what you said.
So, Booker DeWitt is like the world's worst dad. He sells his daughter into slavery and then just sits around depressed for 20 years. And presumably before that, he wasn't doing a great job of raising her either if he was accruing gambling debts and
so
sell her.
Comstock is just he was teaching Booker to appreciate what he had.
Almost, yeah.
Damn.
Is there any more meaning behind the debt than just simply gambling? Because that's the thing that I was thinking about the whole time is, he has a gambling debt, but why would they leave it that simple? Since none of this game has been just that simple.
True.
Is it his debt because they know that he has the potential to destroy the world with the Comstock way?
I don't think that we're given enough reason to doubt that it's a gambling debt.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's not...
Nothing tends to be simple in this game, but I don't see any things that would hint me to think that it was more complicated than a gambling debt. I think he loses his wife, falls into depression, and starts gambling a lot and super irresponsibly.
Yeah, because he does say that he tells Elizabeth he got into debt with the wrong kind of people.
Yeah.
And I don't see it being any further than just the gambling thing. But who knows? Like Dewey says, there's always more than what we seem to know.
I feel like there's more there. I don't personally know what it is, and I will investigate that upon further playthroughs of the game. But
sure, I sort of think it's. I see that as just part of Booker's backstory. Like he lived through 2 wars. He obviously did awful things during them, and then he lost his wife, who maybe she was a positive influence in his life. We don't really know much about her, but presumably if he married her, she was a positive influence in his life. It's like the only thing that we can even sort of speculate might have been good in his life, then dies giving birth to his daughter.
Right.
So I sort of think it was just a gambling debt. I think he was just a tortured soul, incapable of making good, constructive decisions. From Twitter, Atech Prod says, Comstock didn't bring Booker through. Comstock had the Lutesses killed when they were in their machine, and they want revenge. And so he says, like, that basically, that's pretty much the surface level reading, which is just that, no, I mean, the Lutesses wanted revenge and wanted a less catastrophic future, and so they bring Booker through. That's pretty directly shown to us. But I still feel like Comstock plays a role in this, and I don't understand why he wants to drown in flames the mountains of men, unless he needed to create some ending that was so horrific that even this fucking criminal asshole Booker would want to stop it, and would, in the process, like, almost unwittingly save his daughter from the worst future ever. I still think that they're, like, it's totally speculation. I don't think that that's, like, set in stone, a reading you have to have of the game, but I think it might be viable.
Kind of a point. Maybe.
All right, do we have anything else about how the ending reframes the game? I mean, like, almost everything that you run into, like, we've mentioned a million different things that, like, the second time you see them, you're like, oh my god, it was right there. And it's a game
tons
absolutely
of stuff like that.
Worth a second playthrough.
Yeah.
I think, real quick, the ending to me, on a bigger level, made me realize, and like, this is what I've been telling everyone that doesn't play video games in my life. People like my sister, my parents, that kind of stuff. This is a game that you play because, to me, it is the equivalent of an Inception to video games. Something that has that kind of impact on the storytelling of the cinema in Inception's case, and this just the storytelling for the and it's I think that's really, like, I didn't, as most people know, or maybe not most people, you guys know, I didn't really care about this game pretty much until I saw our part 1. Until I saw the Media Cows walkthrough part 1 of this game, I didn't really care about it. I saw that, and now I own it on 3 different consoles. And I don't know, I'll keep on saying it, but it is something that I encourage you to tell people outside of your guys' lives that maybe, when they think of video games, they think of just of Call of Duty or of Mario or something like that. These more, I mean, it's not that these games are necessarily bad, it's just, that's what people think of video games. They don't think that there can be any more sophistication to them. If you guys really want to know a lot more about the sophistication of Bioshock, the entire series and everything, Tom has some really great videos on that on his personal channel, explaining more of that kind of stuff. Is it?
Yeah. But go get him on my personal channel. Subscribe over there too while you're at it. Tom walks through on YouTube. Yeah.
So, but I think that this brings a new level to games, in which other games have been great, but nothing has struck out to me as much as this game has.
Yeah, if you want a movie in the same vein, if you've already seen our walkthrough or played this game, I super highly recommend the movie Primer. It was a movie made for like $2,000, but you can't tell, I promise. And it's a really great movie in a similar vein of storytelling.
Yeah, I've been trying to tell everybody to play this game, and I don't know, it's a little disappointing because even the people that I know that play games are just kind of like, well, maybe. And I'm just like, I want to strangle you people. Like, everybody who's ever played a game needs to play this game. And if you've never played a game, this is a fantastic way to get started. Play on easy. Who gives a shit? Just play it. I just want to tell that to people. Yeah.
Dustin Broyle on Twitter says, or maybe Dustin Broyles, sorry. Any thoughts on when Booker and Elizabeth go through the turnstile, the guard confuses Elizabeth for a girl named Annabelle? And I don't actually think that that's what happens. There is obviously, like, the fact that it's the name Annabelle is very suspicious because of how many different meanings that name has. But I think that, so this guard's not some wizard. This guard can't really see through dimensions. Maybe somehow you could say passively the dimensions are bleeding into her brain and she knows another name for this girl is Annabelle. But what I think happens here is that this guard is just smart and existing in a normal universe and is just simply saying, oh, hey, you're Jason, and you're, if someone just said that to you on the street, your response would be to go, oh, no, I'm Tom, you must have me confused for someone else, at which point you have positively identified yourself, and if you're Elizabeth, the girl on the run from the law at this point, you've just positively identified yourself as someone she should go call in backup and apprehend. So I think it was just a really kind of tricky interrogation tactic, nothing more.
I like it.
Yeah. So let's talk about the link between Infinite and Rapture. So Bioshock Infinite and Bioshock 1 and 2. This is sort of the elephant in the room for me.
Not 2, Tom.
Oh, right, yes, Bioshock 1 because Bioshock 2 does not exist. I've never played 2, but now that we've got this concrete link, I feel a little bit bad for not having played 2.
Feel that way, Tom.
So I know Dewey doesn't even like video games and is a horrible person and basically a Luddite that I'm surprised he knows how to use a computer because he has never played Bioshock.
No, god damn it. I have played Bioshock. I have beaten Bioshock. I just was not of the opinion that it was the most amazing game as everyone said it was. I did not think it was a terrible
tasteless hack.
Yes.
There's a difference.
Please.
It's a subtle difference, but you're right.
I mean, to be fair, this game does make me want to go back and play it again, because I'm like, did I really miss something that I should have really kind of been holding on to here? But, yeah, anyways.
So I'm just going to start this off. By the way, now you should go back and play Bioshock. If you haven't played or watched Bioshock, you should get the fuck out right now. Please, just leave. We don't want your queue. It's not worth it. Go explore Bioshock. Make up your mind for yourself. Don't trust Dewey's heretical analysis of it. Because this is going to get spoilery for Bioshock 1 now as well. And not for Bioshock 2 at all, though my understanding is that that's a crap game anyhow.
The multiplayer is the best multiplayer on the planet.
Is it?
No.
It seemed like it could be cool, but I never played it. I have it on that bookshelf over there, but... Alright, so Bioshock 1 is a game about free will. Bioshock Infinite is a game about free will as well. They both have to do with what it means to make a decision. And that's sort of why they're best told as video games, is because there are decisions throughout the course of a video game. You can actually feel ownership over a character rather than just relating to a character the way that you do in a movie or a book. And so when this character makes decisions, you actually had a hand in making those decisions. And always in the Bioshock universe, however, those decisions you've made are subverted. They're not what you thought they were, or they weren't ever really choices to begin with. In Bioshock 1, it turns out you were just straight up under mind control, and that explained very neatly why you were forced to walk through this story that Irrational Games wanted to tell. In Bioshock Infinite, the universe is simply convergent. It's just simply, no matter what, you end up back where you're supposed to be on this narrative. No matter what little choices you make along the way, you're pretty much being guided by the Lutesses and Elizabeth towards the ending that they want to happen. So that's one unifying theme. But more so than that, it's directly implied that Booker DeWitt is Andrew Ryan. Booker. So here you go. The Bathyspheres. When you go to Rapture,
related to.
That's post-revolution, related to, sure, but what other family members of Booker DeWitt are traveling through space and time to a different universe?
No, Tom.
I don't know either. Or you're Booker DeWitt in a different dimension, I guess would be the way to say it. You're Booker DeWitt in a different narrative, but the genetic material has to be the same. The reason why, or very similar, the reason why is that you're in post-revolution rapture. You can see signs saying that the bathyspheres have been closed, and in Bioshock 1 we learned that the reason why Jack, the protagonist, can use these bathyspheres is because, oh man, giant spoiler, Andrew Ryan is your father. You were actually, Jack was taken as a fetus from his mother and then scientifically engineered to age very quickly and be very brainwashed. But regardless, the underlying genetic material is Andrew Ryan's son. That's why you can use the bathyspheres.
It's supposed to be like only Andrew Ryan and his like very close blood relatives could use it, like his son and his wife. No, not his wife. His wife isn't blood related, but his son basically. But like it wasn't perfect, so that anybody in the general ballpark of his genetics, cousins, aunts, uncles, that kind of thing, they could also use it. So that's why I say Booker is maybe not necessarily Andrew Ryan himself, but is just somehow related to Andrew Ryan.
Right. I still like the interpretation best when Booker DeWitt is Andrew Ryan, because we already have an instance of this seemingly minor choice of accepting or rejecting a baptism causes just wildly divergent characters for Booker DeWitt. So you can ask yourself what could have happened to Booker DeWitt to turn him into Andrew Ryan.
He takes a third baptism where he seems like, I will be Andrew Ryan at this point.
Sure. But all right, so there is this. I just wanted to drive home the point that there is this direct and literal. There has to be a blood relation between Andrew Ryan and Booker DeWitt. Otherwise, the universe no longer makes sense. Right. But with that said, there are definitely really tight story parallels and character parallels between Bioshock 1 and Bioshock Infinite. I've written some of them down. So, like, obviously you've got the figurehead, right? The leadership figure of Andrew Ryan, and that's very much so the same as Comstock. You have Booker DeWitt, and you have Jack, the protagonist from Bioshock, whose name is not mentioned that often, so people oftentimes forget he's named Jack. And so one parallel there is that Jack is the son of Andrew Ryan, and Comstock is Booker DeWitt. So in both cases, there's this very close connection between the antagonist and the protagonist. Some other parallels are that Atlas is very similar to Daisy Fitzroy. They're both revolutionaries claiming to represent the people that are, in fact, actually just as big of scumbags as the people they want to replace. Spoilers. And Frank Fontaine, who, spoilers, is Atlas, is very similar to Fink, the sort of industrialist that's not in control but is definitely still a power figure. Still has a lot of people following him, I guess. Yeah. In one form or another. And so whereas Atlas and Fontaine were like the same person, though, Daisy Fitzroy and Fink are very much so foils for each other. They actually battle each other. So that's kind of like one big difference there. But I don't necessarily know that there's supposed to be a one-to-one correspondence. So much as just very close parallels and this very thought-provoking idea that Booker DeWitt has to be related very closely or somewhat closely to Andrew Ryan in order to use that bathysphere. So that's something like I haven't seen someone flesh that out very closely before, but I'm sure that there's something more to get out of that. That's one area of exploration.
Do you think that they would flesh that out more with the DLC?
Oh my word. Let's talk about what different.
Do we want to talk about DLC? Hold on one second, because I don't know. We have our last topic after the DLC. I don't know if we want to end on the last topic. I feel like we could end on DLC.
Okay.
The last topic, because what we have there as the last topic is like kind of a downer.
All right. No, actually, I agree with Raymond.
Yeah.
This is a little bit impromptu, but I think that this is a good thought. All right, so up next, let's talk about the disappointments and things that we think could have been done better in this game.
Or not that we think could have been done better, but just things that we may have expected to be different. And I, if you guys have something, go ahead. But I've been paying attention to this game for like the last 3 years, maybe even 4 years. I don't know. For whenever they announced this game, I have been obsessed with it. And I mean, like, this is back when I worked at Target. I would listen to Irrational Games podcast. I forget what they were called, but they were talking about just the announcement of the game and the trailers and the gameplay, and I would just sit there while I'm working at Target in the back, just listening to Ken Levine and the other developers, the sound guys, everybody, just talking about the game. And they're talking about, like, the handyman and the sound challenges going into making this really, unique sound for the handyman, because they want these things to be frightening. You want to hear one coming around a corner, much like a Big Daddy, and you can hear the knuckles scraping on the ground, and you can hear the gears, running. And he in the actual finished game, he's this very frightening guy because he's huge and he says really awful things.
Please, just go away.
Right, it burns. It constantly burns. Like these guys are, being tortured almost all the time in these suits. But I didn't get the Big Daddy feeling that I thought I was going to expect from these guys. It never felt like, oh shit, I need to watch what I'm doing. I need to hide because I know I can hear a handyman close by. I never got that, and I was kind of expecting that in some respect. So I was a little disappointed there. I think that the way that they handled handymen were great because I hate them. I just, whenever one shows up, I do panic. So, I guess they succeeded in that respect. They didn't have to recreate just a facsimile of a Big Daddy. They gave this guy his own sort of reasons to be frightening. But I know you got something, but I gotta get this one more thing out real quick, Dewey. The Boys of Silence, who I keep referring to as the Siren, I thought that enemy was going to be more than just that one guy at the end of the game. I assume it's the same Boy of Silence. That's what I took away from this. It's the same guy that was just, he saw us, he vanished, and then he moved up to another level. That's what I saw. I thought there was going to be more of that scary tension that was in Rapture, that wasn't there as much in this game. They did a really good job of it during that part with the Boy of Silence, and all of those creepy freaking like small people with the Benjamin Franklin heads.
Yeah, so freaky.
Oh my god, that was just so creepy. Like,
just a bunch of little saw people, whatever those, running around waiting to murder me. And then at that point, and I'm pretty sure it's with every game, right? You have to, like, you don't have any ammo and that kind of stuff, so it's just like you're having to go back to use the melee and all that nonsense, and it's just like, oh god, what's
Diggers are so helpful during that part.
Yeah.
I played through that segment twice. One by myself because I needed to play it, and two during the walkthrough. When I played it by myself, I didn't realize you could go past the
just
calling
run
him a
past
siren
him.
because Boy of Silence is too weird and too long. I didn't realize that you could just sneak past this guy and not get caught and not have to fight.
I kept on trying to just kill it outright before it could kill me, like stun it or something like that, and it just never
But
fucking
you can't.
worked. Yeah.
That's actually it goes crazy and then it just disappears.
You're definitely given the cues with like his giant ears and the fact that he's got the searchlight for a face that you're not supposed to be detected by him. But I've actually heard a lot of people say like I wanted to just kill him while undetected. That seemed like a good way to deal with that problem to me, and I don't understand why shooting him in the head didn't have any effect.
No.
Which, that's actually understandable.
So I guess so. That's like those are my two disappointments. I guess
One real quick thing that I want to propose. It may not be real quick. Is this was brought up on NeoGAF, and I think it's actually a very good question to ask. Would Bioshock Infinite, in particular, be better not as a first-person shooter? And take apart the fact that Bioshock has always been a first-person shooter genre. That's what it's always have. Could it have been told better as something because of how frustrating first-person shooters can be to people who don't play games a lot? Because for us, we play games every single day. That's what we do for our jobs. So a first-person shooter isn't really anything that, it's whatever. Okay, any type of genre, really, we can play. But for someone that is just being introduced into a game or somebody's playing this for the first time, that can be mildly frustrating. And if it is, what would be the other game, the other mode?
Genre?
That you would want to have it being told through. Because you look at Telltale Games and how they do The Walking Dead in particular, and it's, there's very little kind of gameplay oriented. There's a lot of quick time events and puzzle solving, but and that won Game of the Year to a lot of people last year, and it is a good game from what I've played. And would that have been something that you can implement with Bioshock Infinite?
Or some like make it like Zelda, something like that.
I don't know. I feel like it has to be first person. Okay. Because when you're there and you are just experiencing everything around you, the entire environment is enveloping you. I don't know if you would get the same sort of feeling if you were playing in a third person perspective. And this is coming from me, a guy who isn't a first person shooter kind of guy. I love third person action adventure games. Those are my games. I play those almost exclusively.
Yeah.
And so I think like that says something. If I feel like this game, you have to see what's going around you through Booker's eyes. If you pulled the camera back and you were staring at the back of Booker's head the whole game, in any genre, I don't know if you get that same sense of place and the same level of awareness of where you are, not physically where you are, but just like you guys know what I mean.
Yes, I understand 110% what you're saying.
Yeah,
the fact that the camera is looking out the front of your face is very important because it makes you feel like that person. Because when we're in the real world, our camera looks out the front of our face.
It's true. So even if it wasn't a shooter, I don't know what other genres are in first person.
Yeah, I guess if you want to call Skyrim a different genre.
I guess. I don't know how you would implement swords and stuff.
Well, it's not even so much like
it's very effective too.
It's not like maybe take away some of the shooter elements because of how if you're playing through this game for the first time, this is your first person shooter. You're like, holy crap, this story is amazing. But these combat levels, and some of them, I mean, granted, I played it through on hard, so it was actually not that hard, but it was a little bit more challenging. But some of those combat levels become really extensive. I found myself constantly going on the railings and going to new positions, that kind of stuff. And that's not going to jump out as someone what you need to do right away. And so I don't know what the answer. I don't really have an answer for it because I think that it works as a first-person shooter. I think that when I was reading through the NeoGAF thread, people were saying, they wanted to turn it into a movie, like an interactive movie. And as cool as that kind of is, that takes kind of away from the point of that it's a game.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't really have an answer to it, but it is something to think about.
I do think in that respect, like, it is worth saying, as much as a first-person view is the most engrossing, it is also the most difficult for newcomers to video games. And I realize I'm sort of, like, talking to people that don't give a shit between, like, neither of you want the game to be easier. No one in our audience probably really wants the game to be easier. I don't know how easy the difficulty even goes to. I don't know if there's an easy, a very easy, and a casual, or what.
No, it's easy, normal,
medium,
hard, and then 1999 mode.
Right, but even if it's on easy, you still have to be able to navigate around a world in a first-person view with dual joysticks or a keyboard and mouse. And that's really a skill set that not that many people actually have out there.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things.
So it's worth saying, but I think that we pretty much covered that at this point, especially given the fact that our audience probably all can handle a first-person shooter.
Tom, that's what our walkthrough videos are for.
Yes, it absolutely is. I don't usually shill my walkthroughs to my friends or family, but I'm absolutely doing that with our Bioshock walkthrough, because it's like, frankly, if you don't like video games, I don't care. Watch it.
Yeah.
Do it. You need to experience this somehow. And
yeah,
I'm really happy that we did a walkthrough I'm proud of. We did a
Right.
walkthrough that's completely respectful to the game, that gives you an experience of the game, and also gives you someone to talk to you while there's combat going on that maybe you don't care that much about, or don't feel that invested in. You know, I mean, obviously awesome things happen, there's explosions, it's really cool, but I think having someone talk over combat is usually
And I
nice.
think as aside from just Bioshock Infinite, I think this is really what I have seen media cows being since the beginning. And I think I did a good job, and very similar job with Tomb Raider. Bioshock was obviously a big hit, and I think that it was done well, as well as StarCraft. And I think that this is what you guys can expect with games. We want to respect the video game. If it deserves respect. Like, there are some that don't. Alien Colonial Marines did not deserve a lot of respect when you're playing through it.
Right.
It was not a great game. So there is that. But when you have games like Bioshock Infinite, Tomb Raider, The Last of Us coming out, it's something that we want to show you guys that we care about this game. We want you to experience as much of the story as possible, and we don't want to be talking over stuff that is important. But at the same time, we want to be giving you helpful hints, and also just some entertaining stuff when otherwise it would just be boring to sit there and watch. So
I agree.
Indeed. So, last but certainly not least, there is right now, you can buy it, a season pass for this game, $20 worth of DLC released over the course of a year, which means
you bought it.
we don't have the whole story. I can't imagine that they'd add DLC that's just gameplay without, like, this game is to a large extent going to be defined by its plot going forward. People aren't going to talk that much, although the gameplay is wonderful in this game. That's not going to be what people keep talking about this for the next 5 or 10 years because of. It's going to be the plot line. And therefore, I feel it's totally reasonable to speculate wildly with very little evidence about what this DLC is going to be. So what are the crazy ideas you guys have?
I don't even have any thoughts. Because I have no idea that everything was wrapped up so tightly. You know, like, even though it could, be broken.
But not really, because you have the ending that, like Tom said, that very well could be read as a happy ending. But we didn't see what's in that crate. We don't know what's in that crib.
Yeah.
There could be nothing there. We could go over and it could just be like a radio playing in the corner or something like that. We don't know. So there could be more to this that I know, Tom, don't cry, but I mean,
oh man. I don't know. There were moments. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the preview builds of this game that we never saw. There was one of the founding fathers. He was in the very first gameplay ever shown for this game, and he was the dude that had I forget, one of his cronies had the crows, and that's where you got the vigor, the murder of crows, and you were like trying to snipe him from this giant zeppelin, and he was sitting by this very large cannon, and it was just raining fire down on you, and you had to get over to him, and you tried to kill him. You walked into a bar, and everyone in the bar turned on you. I don't know if you guys, does any of this ring a bell to you guys? I remember all of this just in my head, and that was never in the game.
Dewey, what's happening with the stream?
Sorry, I was. It's fine. I'm pulling up the DLC.
All right,
Dewey's broke it. He broke everything. So yeah, there's all that stuff that was going on in early gameplay builds, and none of that was ever shown. The moment where Elizabeth is on the ground.
Wait, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you were talking about something that wasn't actually in the game. So I was largely zoning out, figuring it would click, and I would know that you were talking about something I had already seen.
No.
What were you talking about?
It was the very first gameplay shown for the game. Like, preview build stuff years ago.
Oh, yeah, I know. I was trying to figure out what was going on with this, so I was completely zoning out. But yeah. No, yeah, no.
Okay.
Now I understand.
So there was that, and then there was the scene where you and Elizabeth are walking around a shop, and Elizabeth is trying on Lincoln hats and stuff like that. She gives you the line that is in the game of "Don't let him take me back," and she puts your hand around her throat, and then after that, there's the scene where the horse is on the ground and it's dead, and she feels awful for it, so she rips open a tear where the horse is alive, and then the ambulance comes at us, and that scene where the ambulance comes at you, that's in the game before you rescue her from the tower, and when you're watching her in the rooms. But so there are parts there that were taken out of those gameplay builds from early on and put into the game, but then there are other parts, like one of the founding fathers of Columbia, that are completely not in the game whatsoever. If you go to the Emporium, I believe it is, in Columbia, where the scalps are on that board that the Vox Populi have killed, and they've nailed their scalps to that board. That founding father that's in that gameplay from 2011 or whatever it was, his scalp and his name is written right there on that board. So it's like, this guy obviously still exists in this world, but for whatever reason they took out that part of the game. Maybe that'll be a DLC. I'm not sure. I didn't get to see what the DLC was that you had on the stream, Dewey, but
it was just you can buy the season pass. There's going to be 3 of them. I think it was what it was showing. Yeah, DLC 1, 2, and 3.
So yeah,
new stories, new characters, new weapons. Sorry.
That's super valuable. Like, what have they already made that they might package into this DLC in terms of gameplay and animations, resources, scenes like the dead horse? And certainly, it's totally possible that, in fact, very likely that across 3 different DLCs, we'll see a lot of the stuff that we saw pre-release that was not in the final game. But I want to talk about how you can tie DLC into this universe, because there's a few different ways, a few different hooks. One thing that stands out to me is the lighthouse scene that we've shown you guys several times already, of you see when you're walking between those lighthouses another version of Booker and Elizabeth walking through, and she says, something about they're not quite us. They've taken a different path to get here. And so it's very possible that we'll see something like that. Something where suddenly our choice does shift the game. And maybe we get to the ending still, but we get there in a radically different way. And someone else threw this into the chat. I totally don't have the name anymore. It wasn't on Twitter. But Comstock, seeing Comstock's story a lot more closely, maybe even from a first-person perspective, could be really interesting.
Damn, that would be good.
Yeah.
I bet he had to kill some people to become the leader of Columbia. And I bet you could make some DLC out of that. And another one would be, oh my god, what if they had DLC that took place in Rapture? That actually fleshed that connection out, that actually showed the Booker DeWitt that ends up leading Rapture. Or the relative of Booker DeWitt that ends up leading Rapture. But fuck it, I'm going hardcore. It's Booker.
Okay, Tom. Maybe there'll be a DLC where they explain exactly how Booker fits into Rapture. Maybe that's something that'll happen. You could be right. Maybe he won't be Andrew Ryan, Tom. Maybe he won't be.
Maybe it'll be a relative Andrew Ryan, though.
I mean, I like to personally think that Andrew Ryan coded the bathyspheres to his genetic code in spite of the fact that there were as many relatives as possible with as traitorous of tendencies as possible living within Rapture.
Whatever, Tom. Whatever.
Or, I would say, that someone says maybe they will explain who or what the songbird is from Isaiah Crite on Twitter?
I know we talked about that.
Yeah,
already.
I feel like that's already pretty explained. They got the technology from Big Daddy's, modified it to work better in a
flying environment.
Yeah, a flying environment. And there's even like a chalkboard at one point that you can see that's got like a sketch of the songbird done in like a Leonardo da Vinci Vitruvian Man style, and it says adaptation to low pressure environments still causes weakness against high pressure, which foreshadows how every time he goes under the water his eyes start cracking.
Yep.
And eventually how he dies.
So sad.
So I feel completely satisfied by the explanation that we have for Songbird, but I also feel like DLC would maybe feel a little bit empty without some Songbird action in it, so
yeah, I mean, and that's another reason why we could be doing a DLC that doesn't further explain the story, but instead goes back in this.
Because I mean, there are so many paths in which you could go down, in which throughout the story you cut from, because you're like, well, we want this person alive actually, and then open up a new thing. So, yeah,
it would be a little bit weird to retcon in like different. So what I said is like maybe those decisions that you make do have like turns that get you to the ending differently, but it would be a little bit weird to me if they retconned in like a significant difference if you kill Slate versus if you keep him alive. If they actually like retconned that into the game as DLC, that feels weird to me. To me, it feels like it would have to be like you'd have to select the DLC from a menu and like decide you're going down this path with the idea that a choice that wasn't even there in the original game was now there.
And that's, I think, like what if they did something radically different like that for the DLC, where the DLC isn't extra content in the sense that you're going to be playing more, but just that what the DLC could be is they start to put choices in the game and make that affect things that actually happen. Because like you said with Slate, I did both kill him and not kill him for my personal and the walkthrough. And if you kill him, that's it. He's dead. You don't kill him when you go down into the Good Time Club, and I love that I can remember all of these names that are from this game. That's another great thing about this game. Like it's just sinks into your head.
It's all very distinctive, yeah.
Yeah. When you go into the Good Time Club and you go down into the prison that's down there, Slate is there. He's like been beaten senseless and he's sleeping and he's just sitting in a chair like he's been like tortured and he's just out of it. And I think Dewey,
I killed him. I killed him the second time. No, because it was Elizabeth was like, "Oh, I guess you should have killed him." And so then I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll shoot him." And so I killed him, and then she's like, "That's what he would have wanted." So I appeased Elizabeth.
Really? That's awesome.
That is sweet. I like that. 'Cause, I just left him there.
That's awful. I feel bad that I made you.
Is like when this is all said and done, sure, being tortured's awful, but what if, I'm not going to end the man's life. He could, get better and rise up from, a low point in his life and make a difference, that kind of thing. I have high hopes for Slate.
I'm just like, no, you're done.
He was asking for it, though, very literally. He felt that was the best life that he could live, would be, let's just end this right now. And who are we to deprive him of that decision? But, alright, Wayward Paladin on YouTube is a genius. He says, Vox Populi Booker DLC.
Oh.
That just seems very likely to me. That seems like that's not even that far stretched at all. I feel like we'll probably see that.
Yeah. That sounds awesome. Like, you go up into the point where Booker becomes a martyr for the Vox Populi.
Yeah.
Because Elizabeth was never in the tower and all of that. Oh, dude, if we could play through that would be amazing. And that sounds very realistic for something that could happen. I like it.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I now expect that, actually. I feel like that's probably the DLC they're working on.
You will write a very angry letter.
Yes.
Oh god, that's really good. Dewey?
No, I agree. I would 100% agree with that.
Seems like some strong speculation right there. Well done. Lyndon.
Super DLC. You play as Songbird and you try to take down Booker. New game basically, flying mechanics, all 6-axis controlled.
Pretty much a clone of Lair.
Yeah,
On the PS.
but you play as Songbird taking down Booker, and then at the very end you as Booker's trying to get to Elizabeth all those times, you just play as Songbird killing him every time he tries to get to Elizabeth.
Sounds good.
Like that's my DLC.
Does anyone have any other ideas for DLC?
Oh man,
All right, well, Dewey, I will let you see us out.
that's it.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us for our premiere spoiler cast. We definitely want to be doing more of these if you guys enjoyed them for games that come out. We'd actually like to branch out and do it with other people too, have guests on and whatnot, get their opinions on the games that we play. I don't think that necessarily this type of podcast or whatever you want to call it is appropriate for all games. Just because I wouldn't do this for Alien Colonial Marines, but I'll keep on picking on that game.
It'll be a pick and choose thing for us mainly.
Yeah, but yeah. Guys, remember to subscribe if you really like this content. That's the best way to get the content as soon as it comes out. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and check out our personal channels. We always got things going on. Well, okay. Tom and Raymond usually have things going on there. I have other things with different channels. So
when I'm not swamped here on Media Cows playing 3 games in a row every week, then yeah, I do stuff on my channel.
But yeah, so any closing remarks, gentlemen?
Tell a friend. Share us on social media. Go spread the gospel of the Media Cows far and wide for the fatherland.
True. And then go play Bioshock Infinite. Spend $60 on this game.
Or,
do it.
More than that.
Or more. Dewey bought 3 copies of the game. I bought the Ultimate Songbird Edition, which is like $150 by itself. Yeah. So, but at the very least, spend $60 on this game.
As the final words, thank you guys for your support. We can't do this without you. All the likes that you guys have given us, all the comments and everything like that. We appreciate it beyond belief. And, yeah. We'll see you guys with the next walkthrough.